morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're listening in the world to this podcast today. My name's Paul Webb. I am the founder of B2B Energy, and you are listening to Energy Speaks Back. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to episode 11 of Energy Speaks Back. Weekly, I present to you experts from around the world. Our subject today is water, and in particular, we're going to be focusing on taps, which seems a bizarre subject. But our objectives today is for energy experts to gain a good understanding of technology that is out there and available to deliver savings that will impact on our world today. So today, I'm joined by an expert in his field. This person I've known for many years, and his technology caught my eye when he bravely appeared on Dragon's Den. He is the inventor and the designer of an amazing product called Waterblade. The Dragons said no, but personally, I think they made a massive mistake. And I think they're actually mad because this technology is the best I've seen in this market. I've used it extensively and I've seen it make significant savings. So without any further ado, I give you Nigel Bamford. So good afternoon, Nigel. How are you?
Good afternoon, Paul. I'm in great shape. Thank you.
You always are in great shape, Nigel, and it's really good to see you. I haven't seen you for a good couple of weeks. And in fact, the last time I think we met was in February when we was installing your kit on site, ready to test it. But that's another story. So, Nigel, let's just for our listeners today, can you please just give us some background about who Nigel Bamford is?
Well, for pretty much my whole working life, I've worked as a carpenter and a building contractor. I started out just doing labouring on sites, and then I learnt a trade, and then I ended up running my own building company. And I guess it was out of that my interest in the energy use of buildings came in. In fact, I got intensely interested in the energy use of buildings. I was running a loft conversion company at the time, and the regulations were changing, and there was a lot of misinformation out there. And you know what insulation we could actually use and should use, and should we use multi-foil or should we use Celotex or kind of polyurethane boards? It was changing and no one really knew. And I ended up taking myself off and doing a MSc in the energy use of buildings. And it was fascinating, and it proved to be somewhat life-changing too, because the Waterblade and came out of that because I kind of developed an awareness of how scarce a commodity water is, which I wasn't really aware of before. And now I know that whole civilizations rise and fall on their management of water. And that's not really an exaggeration, but also it made me aware of how much energy can be associated with your water usage, obviously heating it, but also how much energy we use to produce it as well.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because when I quote energy, in my book, I've actually quoted energy equals gas, electricity, and water, because I think it's an important part of the utility that we need to be focusing on.
Obviously, I'm right with you there. I'm often finding myself these days, because it amazes me and scares me a little bit too, telling people how I live in Brighton, which is in Sussex on the south coast of England, because I'm aware you have an international audience, Paul. So our local water utility company is in the process of building a desalination plant. Now, in the past, you know, I would always, and generally people associate England with plentiful water, lots of rain, and maybe areas of the Middle East as being really water stressed and having to use lots of energy to produce their water through desalination. And the fact that Southern Water are actually choosing to build a desalination plant really drives home for me quite how serious the situation is, and how going forward, even in the UK, the energy used to produce our water is only going to increase.
I totally agree with you. I'm shocked as well regarding how people use water. I've got many a story where I've gone to a property and I've witnessed leaks. I've witnessed leaks that haven't been repaired in plant rooms. I've witnessed the fact that they couldn't repair leaks, so they've redirected the water from the mains straight down into the drains.
Oh
Sacrilege,
dear.
basically, sacrilege regarding that. There's a total misunderstanding, and we take water in this country, in the UK, for granted, really. My particular house I'm not on a meter, but I wish I was, because it'll make me be more focused on my consumption and how I'm using my water. Nigel, obviously I've used your product, and I'm shocked when I first started to test the amount of water it could save. But how did you get to where we are today regarding that technology?
Wow. Yes. So, funnily enough, that's not a question I've answered for a while. It started, I suppose, from going to it was the Centre for Alternative Technology in Wales, where I did my MSc in the energy use of buildings. And while I was there, and we've got a bit of time, so this is the long story. While I was there, I got very ill. And I was wondering, I always thought I was pretty bright, and I was really struggling to do anything. And as it turned out, I had a fairly serious illness. I had Lyme's disease, which you get from a tick bite. And what I had was what was it? Neuroborreliosis. Basically, I had a bacterial infection of my brain lining, and it was pretty serious, and it did make me pretty mad. And at the same time as that, I was doing this course, and in a funny sort of way, the water blade was born out of that, because I had long periods of lying around being very ill, and I was trying to keep my brain active. So I just kind of played around with ideas and designed things in my head. And many of the things I designed, Paul, they were a bit out there and we can let them go. But this one thing, I kind of, as I was getting better, I kept thinking, actually, there might be something in that. I think it came out of a combination of realizing how scarce water was and how much energy is used to heat water. And then at the same time, I remember I quite admired Dyson, who bought out a hand dryer, which I think it's their air blade.
Yeah.
And I just thought, that actually works quite well. It's actually well thought out. They've actually thought about, they kind of did development on like your hot air hand dryer. I don't think anyone had really thought about it or developed it for decades, probably since it was first made. And he came up with this, and it's like, yeah, that's innovative, and it addresses some of the issues. And I think that, combined with trying to work out how you could make more use of a smaller amount of water in your tap, mainly because I was focused at the time on the energy, and I just put the two together, and I thought, I wonder if you could do that with water. I wonder if it's possible. And it kind of grew from there.
I must admit, the experience, now I'll be honest to everyone, I've got one in my bathroom and I use it every day. And obviously when we met, you said, oh, if you don't believe in it, take one home, experience it. So I have got one in my bathroom, and I do experience it every day. And I've had it probably ever since we've known each other. And every day I use it. The whole experience of it is quite amazing. When I wash my hands, when I clean my teeth, that blade, just running your hands through that blade, It makes a big difference. And knowing that I'm saving money at the same time, not only on my water, but on the heated water, because the less water we use, the less water we have to heat up. So there's a close friend of mine, Martin Kinnaird, who worked for David Lloyd. He used to call it the treble treble whammy. So we use less water, we waste less water, and we heat less water. There's 3 savings there, which are very important.
It's great for me. I always enjoy getting feedback from Waterblade, and people sometimes say that it doesn't work for me for one reason or another, and I've always taken the view that is something for me to learn from. But obviously it's great for me to know you've got one and you use it and it really works for you. And as you say, it isn't just about the water. That people are saving money. We're all on this journey to zero carbon. So the energy and the money, and then the water. And as I said, water scarcity in this country it's quite a serious issue. And we've got a lot of it falling out of the sky, but how much of it is usable and we can put down our taps is an entirely different matter.
Yeah.
And just, that's what the Waterblade's all about. It's about being a bit creative about how we use our water and making it go a bit further. But it saves money on your bills. Obviously, I've got to, that is it. I think it's great. It's saving people money on their bills.
So Nigel, obviously, it's very good domestic. I've got it in my house. It does work well. Have you got case studies where you've taken it into the commercial world? And I know you have in some areas, but are there case studies that you can share with us today?
Absolutely. Our first real and one I still refer to was Royal Bank of Scotland. We won the Royal Bank of Scotland Go Goburn Challenge, and Go Goburn is where they have their head office campus in Edinburgh, and it's a big site. It's quite a modern kind of site, built, I guess, probably about 14 years ago, with pretty good eco credentials. And their challenge was, tell us how you're going to save us water or energy. And they put a lot of time, effort and resources into this challenge, which I think it was run by it's the 3 Degrees Network, who are an excellent organization who work with a lot of companies, helping them reduce their carbon footprint. So we did a trial, and they got an engineering practice to directly monitor one of their business units, and they had 6 washrooms, each with 5 basins, and they directly monitored the water usage before and after fitting. And we as I said, it was a good eco building. It already had 6 litres per minute aerators on the taps, which are great for washing your hands. But the Waterblade halved that. The Waterblade operates at below 3 litres per minute and does an equally good job of washing your hands. And the great thing was that the data really supported it. And the good thing about the data also was that it was collected by an independent consulting engineer, not by us. And the final report based on that data was approved by Royal Bank of Scotland. And I was, and still am, quite impressed by this. Royal Bank of Scotland have a Department of Technical Oversight, and their Department of Technical Oversight approved this report. So wow. I do still send that report out to today, even though that was 3-4 years ago now, because it's just such good data, such credible data. And it showed we reduced the water consumption from their taps by 60%, which was, pretty impressive. I was expecting 50%, 60% was great. And that added up to, I think 5% of the whole building's water consumption.
And there was also a heating saving as well, isn't there?
Yeah, and so it was 5% of the whole building's water consumption, and 1.5% of the whole building's energy consumption. And they heated it through a combination of electric and gas. So there was, I can't remember the exact division, but and at the time I remember thinking 1.5%. And they did roll it out to the whole building and a good deal of their estate subsequent to that, which was great. And but at the time I remember thinking, 5% of the whole building's water consumption, 1.5% of the whole building's energy consumption. I guess I wasn't quite sure what I was expecting, but it didn't seem like a lot. But over the last few years, I've come to realize that actually for a building with good eco credentials, and considering how much it cost them to roll it out to the building and how easy and how quick it is actually a fantastic win. And we've gone on to have similar wins with lots of other companies who are really keen to adopt it and are adopting it. I don't know if you want to hear more. I mean, obviously.
So is it now global? Because I remember we spoke last, you did have other countries that are looking to utilize the technology.
Yes. So the core of our sales is in the UK. But obviously, overseas, there are some countries who potentially the water situation is more severe than in the UK. Interestingly enough, it's not an obvious thing. We went to Abu Dhabi, Doha, which is in the UAE, and they had only just come to decide that they needed to look at their water consumption, and that was more a kind of because the state had produced and supplied the water up to then, and not really charged market price for it, which you could argue made them in a similar situation as the UK, because we've only just started metering it and we're only just starting to reach the limit of some of our infrastructure, which is creating scarcity combined with other factors like climate change. So yes, we mainly sell in the UK, but we have, like some of our UK clients, like Standard Chartered Bank, have refitted it to their London offices in Basinghall Street, and they have now fitted it to their offices in Dubai, in Bahrain, in Gaborone, which is in Botswana, and in Laos. Oh no, I'm going to show my ignorance now. I can't remember. Laos, I think it's in Ghana.
Right.
I could be wrong. Excuse me for not remembering. But and so basically about 8 Middle Eastern and African countries.
Right.
And similar story with Unilever and Microsoft. We've done way over 10 premises for each of them, just starting from one premise. And that's what I think, really speaks volumes about the product. It's one thing to get someone to fit one unit, and then you get them to fit maybe a whole premises. But what you find out very quickly is if people don't like it, they're very happy to tell their facilities staff or whoever it is who's managing the premises. So for a company like Microsoft to fit it to one premises is great. But for them to then roll it out to another 14 or 15 or more, I have literally lost count. We literally sent 2 weeks ago, we sent an order out to Lisbon, and we've got an inquiry ongoing from Barcelona. So it's an ongoing process. It's a real endorsement because that people are using it. They're saying, hey, that's a great idea. I like it. And it's spreading. And that is how it's spreading.
One of the impressive things that I find about your technology and the way you work, Nigel, is every time someone had a problem, like they said, we can't use that because someone's going to take that. Yeah, that's not a problem. We've got lockable rings on there. We don't like the way it comes out at an angle. Oh, that's no problem. We've got different shapes of blade as such that we can adapt it to. So everything is adaptable. Your technology is very flexible to meet everyone's particular needs. I think you've covered that very well.
Do you know, I mentioned earlier that I did the MSc in the energy use of buildings at the Centre for Alternative Technology. And it was a fantastic experience. And one thing I learned, apart from, well, how to talk in front of people without breaking out into a cold sweat, but that took time. The other thing I learned was about the importance of feedback in any system. So I wish I could remember the exact. We had a really fantastic course, and it basically just made me really aware about how, if you're innovating and if you're developing something new and going in a new direction, how you have to embrace and accept and incorporate that feedback if you want to develop quickly, and you have to do that quickly. And I really hope, and I think we have managed to do that with Waterblade. It's not the product it was when we first launched. It's gone from a single component plastic injected molding nozzle that did, it really addressed the issue, but because, for instance, with our original product, you had to set the maximum flow on your isolating valves, and that was an issue for people, understandably, because it makes the installation trickier, and it could highlight issues with your isolating valves too. Occasionally we'd have a client who said, oh, well, I haven't used those valves for years, and then we went and used them and they started dripping. And you're like, so we've highlighted a maintenance issue for clients, which we didn't really want to do. So we've now incorporated an equally, maybe even more complex technology, which is flow control, into it. But the two technologies work really well. And as you say, now it's just fit and forget. You just fit it to your tap, and you get no matter what your mains pressure supply is, you get the same flow rate, which is optimized for the Waterblade nozzle. So we're really proud of it, and it gives great functionality, and that means the clients, they fit one and they go, yep, that works, that's simple, no messing around, I haven't had to do anything apart from change out the nozzle, which I can do in a couple of minutes, let's do the whole building. And we're kind of there now. I'm really proud of the product now. I mean, that doesn't mean we aren't innovating and changing. Obviously, we now chrome plate it, because that makes it a lot more visually, a lot more attractive. But it's a process of constant innovation. And as you say, we've now brought out one for smaller basins, because some clients were saying, well, washhand basins, actually ours are pretty small. So we've brought out one with a smaller blade, and that's actually being very successful. It's almost, I think it won't be long before we sell more of that one than the original one.
Right. And any plans for other products, different ideas, maybe a shower? I don't know, what's in the pipeline? Excuse the pun, sorry.
Look, we're always looking to take the Waterblade technology further. I think that's mostly what we're about as a company, just finding ways so that we can use the Waterblade technology to save you water, and to make a small amount of water go further and be more useful. And look, there's lots of exciting little projects we've got. It's all about kind of how fast we do it. We've got to be careful not to go too fast. We've got to kind of, and it comes back again to feedback. We've got lots of ideas. We think, oh, that would be brilliant. But actually what we actually do, and we have to be quite strict with ourselves about that, is we have to wait until people come back to us and say, oh, I wish you had one that did this, or can't you do that? And if we gauge that there is a demand, then we try to make sure our innovations are very demand-led. Yes, there are innovations in the pipeline for sure.
Brilliant. I look forward to seeing those. But Nigel, dare I say, look, I'm very impressed with you being so brave regarding the Dragon's Den, and I don't think I could ever have a time to talk to you anytime. I love bringing the subject up. So, I think they gave you a bit of a hard time on that program, and you deserve better. Have you got a message for them today?
Do you know, I have absolutely no hard feelings towards the Dragons. I think they did give me a hard time. I think they didn't quite get what they were looking at, but it's actually very hard if you're new to the whole concept of the water industry and the scarcity of water and quite how important it is and quite how immediate the issue is and quite how that immediate issue is growing. And all of those things most people aren't aware of, let's be honest. And I think the Dragons may or may not have a level of awareness. So, look, I certainly could have presented it better. It would have been lovely if they had seen the enormous potential that we are starting to realise, but that is there for Waterblade. None of them, even though they gave me a bit of a hard time, I don't think they really know. Some of them knew what to make of me. And if you look at the end of that, they all said, well, we think you've got something here, but we're not seeing the investment. So none of them were too scathing. They're a bit harsh during the process. So, look, for me, we got fantastic publicity. It was one of those bucket list type experiences. And, you know, I just see it as all positive, and I have no hard feelings whatsoever. It would have been nice to get a Dragon on board, but actually it was more about I didn't want to get a Dragon on board at maybe such a low valuation. So Deborah Meaden would have come on, and she was my preferred Dragon. She would have come on if I'd kind of pitched it a bit lower. Who knows whether that would have worked out brilliantly or not. I actually, you never know. But it was a fantastic experience. And I mean, and it showed so many things for us too. Like our website crashed that evening. It's hard to underestimate. That's our e-commerce website crashed that evening, and my Google Analytics registers it up to 9,000 hits before it kind of just went off. So it's hard to underestimate. Don't underestimate quite what an impact and quite what a following Dragon's Den have. It was fantastic publicity. And it's been repeated in South Africa, which has given us actually some really good connections in South Africa for so when we come to the point where we're kind of serious about taking Waterblade to South Africa, which is something that we will do and is in our business plan, it's done a lot of groundwork for us there as well.
Well done for that program. And I said it in the intro that you are a brave guy, and I wouldn't be able to do that. And I think it was really, really good watching and very entertaining. I'm sorry it didn't go the right way for you, but I think things happen for a reason. They really do.
Absolutely. Look, a lot of people, and I used to watch Dragon's Den, and you kind of think that if the Dragons don't invest, then that's the end of it for that product. But of course it isn't. It's not the be all and end all. And Waterblade has, gone on and developed and grown significantly, and still is growing quite dramatically, actually. So,
And long may it continue, Nigel. So, Nigel, I like to always leave the audience with a takeaway from yourself. So is there anything that you can give back to this industry?
Well, personally, and Waterblade as well, really, they're all about managing our water resource better. And I kind of just think it's really important, as I think I said at the beginning of our talk. Civilizations kind of thrive but also fail on how they manage their water resource. And I just think there's so much potential for us to be more imaginative and more creative and more forward thinking in how we tackle that. I'm a real big advocate of SUDs. I'm not sure if they're still called that, but basically sustainable urban drainage systems. I think we should be making a lot more use of those kind of measures to mitigate flood risk, to improve our environments, even improve our air quality too. If you look at some of the data from planting and water gardens and deculverting rivers, we have the potential to manage our water better and at the same time improve our environment and our urban environment massively. I when I was a kid, I grew up and there was a stream at the end of my street and you could go and play in it. And I did. And most of our streams in our urban environments now are in concrete pipes running under roads. And I thoroughly embrace the whole movement of reversing that trend, but done in a way that maybe like because of the rain gardens to filter the water, but also to improve the environment and the air quality too.
Brilliant. Well, Nigel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show and seeing you. As I said, I haven't seen you since before the lockdown, and I'm really excited about some project work that we're going to be doing together. I wish you every success with Waterblade. I think you have got an amazing technology there, and I hope everyone gets to see it and use it. I wish you and your family well and safe in these times. And thank you very much for coming along today.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you very much for having me on your podcast. Really appreciate it. Really nice to talk to you.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye, Paul.
Thank you for joining me today on this podcast. And thank you for my special guest. Please go and check out our website on www.b2benergy.co.uk, where you can see many more insights to how you can manage that third largest expense. Thank you. That just leaves me for one more thing to say. Be safe.